One in five suffer.
Erase the stigma.
Brain difference is not a crime.
Mental health isn't just your problem.
It's our problem.
And now, Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave.
Welcome to Mental Health Mondays. Wait, we're Marla and Dave. No. Not today. Today, it's just me. So I want to say that we're always going to miss Dave in the co-chair. And Dave on his own, for those of you who don't know, Dave is a superhero of a cappella music. So he was out with his fellow a cappella superheroes in Take 6 and was not able to make it into the studio. But I'm here. So I want to remind everybody that please text the word GIVE, 818-698-1021, and support our Dollar Today Keeps the Stigma Away campaign. All it takes is $1. It's right there. Please, 818-698-1021, and let's help us make a difference here on Mental Health Mondays in this year. It's $1. So today we're super excited to have our guest, Ryan Stygar. He is a worker, and you work with your rights, and he's an advocate and an attorney and a former firefighter. That's quite a combination. Ryan has a heart for service and understands great leadership. Ryan wants people to know that their rights, and he wants to help them understand ways to protect themselves at work. Whether the issue involves civil rights, mental health, or other disabilities, making sure that you're armed with the appropriate information is key. So we plan to have an amazing conversation today with Ryan. I personally can't wait because we all need to have some information and to be protected, and what better person to talk to and find out that information than to do it with Ryan. So today we're going to do that. So when we come back from this break, stay tuned, and we're going to have an awesome conversation today with Ryan. We'll be right back.
When Dave and Marla get together, it's hot.
Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave and NAMI San Fernando Valley believe it doesn't take much to make life a little better for our neighbors, coworkers, friends, our family members, even our children who suffer with mental illness. When you support our A Dollar Today Keeps the Stigma Away campaign, you are doing your part to erase the stigma surrounding mental illness. For just $1 today, or $1 a day for 1 week, just $7, we can look forward to a future that does not include the unfortunate and uncomfortable stares, bullying, and the subsequent isolation that our loved ones who suffer with brain differences deal with. Text the word GIVE, that's GIVE, to 818-698-1021 to donate. A Dollar Today Keeps the Stigma Away. Brought to you by Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave and NAMI San Fernando Valley.
Okay, so like we promised you, Ryan, welcome to Mental Health Mondays.
Thank you, Marla. It's good to be here.
All right, I got to jump right in.
Let's do it.
Speaking of jumping, it's a transition and a half to go from being a firefighter to an attorney. Please do tell.
You know, I'm very lucky. I got to have a dream job early in my life. In my early to mid-20s, I was a firefighter for CAL FIRE San Diego unit. Did that for a little over 4 years. I did wildland fire. I was on a medic engine. I was on a desert rescue squad. And it truly is the best job in the world. But as my career progressed, I had to have an honest conversation with myself. And the question I asked is this career going to give me the lifestyle I want when I'm 30, 40, 50, 60? And as time went on, the answer started to be no. I didn't have the time off I needed. I didn't have the flexibility I needed. I was missing weddings. I was missing birthdays. These are irreplaceable memories.
At any point in that conversation with yourself, did you think, because you just talked about it being a dream job, was there ever anything that said, hold up, I'm fighting fires in California, which at some point, I live in the Calabasas, Woodland Hills area, and I've seen a fire wall. And I'm like, that's scary. And I'm not even in it. So did the danger in your job ever play in your mind? Because you said dream job, and to me, that's not my dream.
Well, it's funny. That's one of those things where if you think about it too much, you'll get paralyzed. Every firefighter you see is highly trained. We work as part of a union.
Right.
And at the in the moment, it just feels like work. It might look kind of scary and crazy on TV, but we all have a job to do and we know what we're doing. Certainly, danger is relative.
Right.
We all face different dangers and different careers we're in. And honestly, having been in both a fire career and in a white-collar career, the dangers look different, but we're all exposed to different hazards when we go to work.
Well, the one thing I will say that I can link and understand is your literal need or your choice of service, because being an attorney is also service. So I see that firefighting and being, an attorney, especially in the capacity in which you work, is service. And so did those things link to you? Or is that something that is just, if you had to describe Ryan, is that something that has always driven you to serve others?
100%. The best part of my job as a firefighter was actually getting to interact with the people we were helping. And I'm very blessed that I had the career I had in my community. I'll tell you a very short story.
No, for sure.
I was at the gym.
Make it long.
Oh, no. I think I was 22 years old. I was right in the middle of my career. I was working out at the gym, and this guy comes up to me. He taps my shoulder. He says, "Hey, I know you." And I looked at him. I'm like, "You look familiar, too." At San Pasquale High? He was like, "No, I didn't go to San Pasquale." UC Santa Barbara? "No, I didn't go to UC Santa Barbara." And then his eyes lit up and he goes, "Are you a fireman?" I'm like, "I am." He was like, "You came to my house a month ago. My mom wasn't breathing. You guys saved her. She's okay."
Wow.
I was like, "Get out." He's like, "Your mom's okay." She's like, "You guys saved her life." And I remember my hands were shaking. I'm in terrible shape. Maybe that was part of the reason.
No. I used to
But
be
my
a
hands
trainer,
were
Ryan.
shaking. And to have an opportunity to do something like that, I don't take that lightly. And it was such a gift in the fire service to get to have moments like that. And now as a lawyer, when we hand over a big settlement check to a sexual harassment victim and say, "Look, nothing can undo what that manager did to you."
Right.
But I certainly hope that a giant check helps.
Okay, so let me back up just 2 seconds, because can you just delineate for us between, because you just talked about something that it's a question of mine. Is a firefighter equivalent to an EMT?
Depends.
Are you trained? Tell me what the training is, because when I think firefighter, I'm thinking clearing brush and saving a house and busting in something that's on fire and making sure that somebody's got. In other words, I see you doing a lot of. In my mind, firefighters are doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
That's 10% of the job.
Okay.
The other 90% is usually medical responses. That's most.
So you're
Cal
trained
Fire.
that way.
Yeah, all of us were EMTs at the minimum. Most of us were paramedics.
Okay.
Yeah. So mostly medical aids is what we do most of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've jumped forward. You've decided that you're going to expand your service into the legal field, except you can again go anywhere and serve others. So tell me about what you chose as your field of study as an attorney.
Well, I went to law school at California Western School of Law in San Diego, which, it's an incredible school, by the way. The mentorship you receive there, I don't think anyone can touch.
I heard you also might make really nice relationships there.
Yeah, it's
That's
a good
just a rumor.
matchmaking service, too.
That's the whoneedsmatch.com.
Yeah, absolutely. My beautiful girlfriend is with us today. We met
Ryan's
in law
girlfriend
school
is
as
sitting.
well.
She's not on camera, but she's here, and she is beautiful, and they're both smart. It's ridiculous. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, she's the smart one, but thank you. Being a
Oh,
workers'
you've
rights.
learned.
Yeah.
You already know the rules. Nice.
I developed some survival instincts. Yes. Being a workers' rights attorney, it didn't occur to me initially. I knew I wanted a job that gave me more flexibility and control over my time, because the worst part of being a fireman, and there was a worst part, was I just had no control over my life. I didn't have control over my schedule, and it was frustrating. There was a seed that got planted. And I didn't know the seed was there until I was in my second year of law school. When I left the fire service, right before I left, our union was renegotiating our contract on behalf of thousands of firefighters. One of the chiefs who was doing the negotiation invited me into his office to help him proofread some documents and work on the collective bargaining agreement. And that was the first time I thought, holy cow, these papers that we're all working at, this negotiation we're doing with the department, this affects the livelihoods and the quality of life of all of my brothers and sisters in the service. And that's how important this is. And I didn't know the seed was there, but that moment planted the seed that I wanted to be a workers' rights advocate. Then I went into law school. I tried a few different practice areas. I worked for a judge, and then I started handling some employment cases. And then I discovered the seed again, and I realized how important it was to represent workers, because the bargaining power is not equal. It's not fair. Employers have the upper hand. So being able to stand up for workers and make sure that they're paid fairly, they're not abused, they're not sexually harassed, if they have unique talents and unique inhibitions, that we respect those and we help people, because everyone deserves to make a living.
Right.
Yeah.
So you went, wow. So my brain is always like, so in helping to represent and protect protect workers, how do you, is there a lane that you just said to yourself, you can't, basically to stroke the whole community as an advocate, is a lot of people to protect. So we're talking about mental health as well. And now that's such a focus. And so when Ryan jumps in, is there a place that you don't go?
That is a great question. Really, we're all things labor. It's such a broad umbrella. Some of the big channels that you'll see is obviously, sex harassment, wrongful termination, discrimination. We represent a lot of class actions. We represent groups of workers against employers. We have a very big one against Amazon, which that happens all the time. We represent
That's hilarious.
nurses.
I was about to mention Amazon, and I was like, no, don't do it, Marla. Just do button your lip.
Yeah, I can't comment on ongoing
No,
litigation,
for sure.
but they're a common opponent that we see frequently. We also represent a lot of nurses who, for all their hard work, weren't paid appropriately during the COVID pandemic, which is just unreal. How the least we can do is pay them appropriately for all the work that they do. Where do I not go? We actually do defend employers on a case-by-case basis. I have a VIP list of small business owners and entrepreneurs who I help because I want them to do well. The rule is, though, if you're doing sexual harassment and things like that, we don't defend you. I own my own practice, and so I have the luxury of choosing who I defend, and your morals must align with mine. And they're not crazy morals. Don't sexually harass your employees and don't steal their wages. I'm not asking a lot.
Right.
Most people should be able to pass that test.
These things are basic.
It's pretty easy to get on that list of people who I will work for.
These things are the basic things. So I want you to as we begin to turn the corner, I want you to get into what would be effective when it comes to communication and with employees or your employer. So how do we deal with that when we come back? Because we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back from this break, I want to talk a little bit about that interface.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Don't move. We'll be right back with more with Ryan.
It's time for the Mental Health Minute with Marla and Dave.
What is an anxiety disorder? Well, it's a chronic condition characterized by an excessive and persistent sense of apprehension with physical symptoms such as sweating, palpitations, and feelings of distress. People with anxiety disorders respond to certain objects or situations with fear and dread. According to mentalhealth.gov, an anxiety disorder is diagnosed if a person, A, has an inappropriate response to a situation, B, cannot control the response, C, has an altered way of life due to the anxiety. The 5 major types of anxiety disorders: generalized anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, which would be OCD, panic disorder or post-traumatic stress disorder, which is PTSD, social phobia or social anxiety disorder. Here on Mental Health Mondays, we always remind, if you or anyone that you know shows serious signs of anxiety, please contact a mental health professional and get the much needed help that you deserve. You are not alone. This message is brought to you by Mental Health Mondays with Marla and Dave.
David is a thinker.
I never do anything without thinking about it first.
Marla is a feeler.
I basically live my personality on my scene.
But when Marla and Dave get together, it's like a match dancing with a firecracker.
Okay, so we're back, and I left asking you a question about interaction. Give us some Ryan tips about the way that good interaction or proper interaction, or what the next steps, when you should take a next step when you're dealing with an employer-employee interaction and relationship that has kind of gone adrift.
Okay. Well, the first thing that I tell people on all of my social media posts that I try to put out every day is a paper trail protects you. The first step, you got to know your rights, but you also have to have a paper trail, because when we document what's happening at work, that's when we're able to enforce our rights and make sure the employer behaves. A lot of companies, if they have an HR department that's competent, they will pay attention to the paper trail and they'll tell themselves, hey, we need to really make sure we're respecting this person's rights and that we're following up with them and giving them the tools they need to succeed. Good HR will do that. And if you have a bad HR and they don't do those things, then at least you can take that paper trail and you can go to someone like me and get your rights enforced.
Right.
So when we talk about communication with the employer, the first thing that we need to do is have a real conversation with ourselves and ask if we're even in a situation where we'll need to assert our rights. And what I'm talking about is with mental health specifically. It's one of those things you can't see. It's not like
I was just going to
arm.
ask you, is that a lot harder to actually, to be able to advocate for? Because it is so, first of all, it's elusive, it's varied, and it's I think that one of the reasons that mental health is so hard to manage is because, in my experience, it's the one thing that I think people can't neatly fix. There's no finite end to managing mental health. It's an ongoing target.
Yeah, and sometimes your mental health needs are inherent to who you are as a person. So telling yourself, oh, I'm ill, I need to fix this, I'm broken. No one wants to believe that they're broken.
Right.
And you're not. You're just, your needs are a little bit different, and we respect that. So the first thing is understanding that you may be disabled under the law, legally disabled, even if you don't realize it. That's why it's really important to pay attention to your mental health. Go talk to a therapist once in a while and check in, because even temporary disorders like anxiety or PTSD that flares up, things of that nature, those are protected disabilities under federal law, and here in the state of California, they're protected as well. But your protections don't kick in if the employer has no idea that you have a problem.
Right.
If the employer is saying, hey, your work performance is bad, you're not showing up on time, your numbers are down, and they fire you or punish you, you can't just turn around and say, wait a minute, I had a crippling mental health situation and I needed help, and the employer is just going to say, we had no idea. We're not responsible for that.
Right.
So one of your first things that you need to do to protect your income is go to a healthcare provider and get some kind of diagnosis. You can't, it always starts with understanding what's really happening under the hood.
Okay, so let me stop right there and look in my camera. And this is what I've been saying forever when it comes to mental health. And Ryan just said it again. It's not about wearing a label or a diagnosis. It's about having a handlebar to manage a problem. I'm going to say that one more time. It is imperative that you understand you have to have the diagnosis is nothing more than a clear handlebar to help you direct your bike. You can't, the unicycle goes wherever you pedal it. It's not, it's very unstable and unpredictable. So I'm an advocate of that. And it's not for the reason of, you're borderline personality disorder. You have bipolar. You have anxiety. It's not about labeling someone, but it's literally, you can't begin to identify help until we know what I need to help.
Absolutely. And I love the handlebar analogy. And I hope it's valuable for the listeners to know that I'm a successful attorney. I'm a successful business owner. My life is fantastic. And even I struggle with mental health issues as well. I didn't know they were there.
Right.
In the fire service, unfortunately, I did see people deceased, and I'd seen some things that
trauma.
They're pretty upsetting, horrible things, and you don't really think about it in the moment, and then years later, you start having those panic attacks. They're becoming less and less frequent as I'm learning to manage them, but I'll have days where I feel incredible pressure in my chest, and I have to address those old triggers. But if I just put my hands over my eyes and pretend they aren't there, yeah, exactly. You can't put your head in the sand because you can't fix it. So in the context of work, where we're protecting our income and protecting our careers, we need to first be very honest with ourselves about what our mental health needs are. That's the first step. The second step is to put the employer on notice that you need a reasonable accommodation to do your job. You don't have to give them the specific diagnosis, but you should go to a mental health provider and tell them, hey, this is my job, these are my duties. How can we accommodate me at work to help me do my job successfully? And that might look like something, adjusted schedules, tools to do your job, maybe taking you to a part of the office where there aren't loud triggering noises. That's a great accommodation I see for veterans, people who suffer from PTSD, Marine Corps, those kind of things, or time off. leave can be a form of accommodation, and it's protected too under multiple laws. My content is for all 50 states, even though I work in the state of California. The Americans with Disabilities Act does apply to those less obvious
Right.
disabilities.
Right.
And you don't have to consider yourself or self-identify as disabled to be disabled. By
Right.
definition, anytime it affects your job, it's a disability.
Right. Well, that is awesome and interesting because I think that, again, for those of us in the mental health world, those of us, it's my story is very public, and so those that support those who are suffering, it's so volatile, and there seems to always be, you do find yourself feeling like you're always alone because you don't realize that you have advocates, especially legal advocates, to help you move through a system that doesn't seem to even want to do anything but stigmatize you and criticize you and ostracize you and kick you to the curb.
It's an uphill fight, and that's why we do what we do, and it's why I'm on my phone making videos as much as I can. So,
Tell us, and so tell me what your social media, because you mentioned that. So
absolutely. Attorney Ryan on TikTok, Attorney Ryan on Instagram, The Labor Lawyer on Twitter. I try to post daily content about your rights and how to manage these tough situations. And one thing I do that's relevant here is I try to put up sample emails. Like, if you're really not sure, how do I even start this conversation with my boss? I'm in sales, and if he knows that I'm depressed, he's going to think I can't make my calls every day, and they're not going to...
Which brings more anxiety,
which
brings more triggers, which brings fear, which brings trauma. It's a whole thing.
Exactly. Coming to an employer and saying, hey, I need help, and figuring out the right words to say is intimidating. So I try to put those templates up to get people started. But remember, your rights don't attach until the employer is on notice. That's going to be one of the most important things you do, is that first communication.
So let's talk about a few of the acronyms that I have listed here.
Absolutely.
Okay, so CFRA.
That's the California Family Rights Act.
Right. And so talk to us a little bit about each.
Okay, the California Family Rights Act, it's sort of the California brand of the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act. That's FMLA. And
Okay.
I think
I know what that is.
Anyone who's had maternity leave or paternity leave is probably familiar with it.
I haven't. I just quit my job.
Oh,
It's
well,
okay.
that works too.
Having a baby, bye. That's how mine worked. But it's okay.
Well, what these rules do is they protect your job. They give you up to 12 weeks of unpaid but job-protected leave while you recover.
So you can't be fired, but you may not be paid.
Yeah, they don't have to pay you. The benefit is some employers will offer some sign of benefits.
But that's not legal. Legal doesn't have to get you paid.
It's not
but
legally
you can't
required.
lose your job.
There are resources available. It varies heavily by state, but some states do offer some supplemental assistance, temporary disability. You should talk to an attorney or workers' rights advocate to talk about ways to get income during that time.
Right.
Yeah, but the important thing is when you come back, you have to be restored to the same or substantially similar role.
Got it.
Upon your return. And this is the trap I see so often. Someone has a mental health crisis. They need time off. They don't ask about CFRA. They don't ask about FMLA, mostly because they're not aware of their rights.
Right.
What I see instead is the employer says, okay, well, you can resign now and come back when you feel better. They don't take
them back.
They
right.
don't take you back.
Exactly.
No, and that sucks. Because
Quit,
now
and
you're
we'll
out of a
see
job.
you when you're better. Mm.
Yeah, and so FMLA, CFRA retaliation is something I see all the time.
So hold on. So if that should happen, do your legal services help somebody in that position get their job back?
Well, if that's what you want, we can talk about it. But a lot of times, if you get illegally fired, going back isn't really what you want.
Yeah. You open up a whole nother can of worms.
Usually, we just get you money.
Okay, well then there you go. That helps. Yeah. Okay, so we're not done. We got more conversation coming with Ryan. This has been amazing. I'm learning. I hope you're learning. Don't move. Well, you can move if you want to, but when you get back, we'll be waiting. See you in a minute. Oh no! You know what, Tony? Today I should have realized. I should have asked Ryan, "Are you coming? You're going to be accompanied by somebody?" Because his beautiful girlfriend is here, and if I had known, it wouldn't be me doing the pole dance. It would be her dancing. Because Dave always wants me to dance. I'm like, dude, almost 35 years of marriage. How much must I dance for you? What is this dancing thing? You can dance. Get yourself a little banana hammock. Anyway. I went too far. I went too far. I went too far. There's a such thing as a man pole. But today, this is about the poll question. And last week, and so Ryan, listen up. This is to you. We asked the question. It's estimated that 70% of Americans will experience a traumatic event in their lifetime. what percentage will go on to develop PTSD? 6%, 14%, or 20%?
I'm going to go 20. Where are we at?
Ryan is a successful law school graduate and attorney, and therefore, and don't put anything on that because in this case he was definitely right. But there's another question to be asked and answered. And also our guest last week was also right. I know we told you had to wait and see what was going to happen, so you two landed that. So 20% is the answer. So next week, Ryan, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. And I would like for you to feel free. We can hear you in the back, so I'm going to ask them both. What percentage of Americans live with a serious mental illness, such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or major depressive? 1%, 4%, or 7%? Want me to ask it again?
No, I think I got this. I'm going to say 4. Those sound pretty serious.
4%.
Yeah.
Okay, well, they said it together because they are together. They're a couple. Even if you can't see them, I can see her too. And we will get the answers for you next week because if I tell you now, I have to kill you. You guys want to die?
Not today.
Okay, so just tune in next week. That's all there is to it. I gave you choices. You took the right choice. I like it. All right, we'll be back next week with the answer. And don't forget, $1 today keeps the stigma away. Please text GIVE to 818-698-1021 and help us erase the stigma. We need you. We'll be back. Okay, I'm going to hop right in as we get ready to conclude. We never have enough time. ADA, which I think we didn't mention that. We mentioned FMLA. So ADA is an acronym, which is American Disability Act.
Americans with Disabilities Act, yes.
Yeah. So and talk to us just a teeny bit about that.
Okay, so relevant for what we're talking about here is ADA guarantees your right to reasonable accommodation for work. Okay. Now, this rule applies generally to most employers of at least 15 employees. Now, if you go to other states like California, it can apply to employers of 5 or more employees. But federal, nationwide, ADA, 15 or more workers. What happens then is if you tell your employer, hey, I have a disability that interferes with my ability to do my job, they have to engage in something called interactive process with you. It's not a formal thing. It can be over coffee. It can be in the great break room. That's fine. But what they have to do is first identify what your key job duties are. And if you can still do your key job duties, we move to phase 2, which is what tools or changes do we need to help you do your job duties. And as long as those things don't present an undue burden or an undue hardship on the employer, they have to do it. It's not optional.
Okay. So last and definitely not least, Title VII?
Yeah, that's your civil rights.
Okay.
And that typically goes hand in hand with a lot of what I do.
Okay. So and you know what? I want to remind that your civil rights, everybody always equates, in a lot of cases, civil rights are equated to, and especially today, Martin Luther King birthday, that it's about, African American or black rights, like as black people. But the civil rights are much broader than that.
They're extremely broad. One of the traps that people fall into is they think, oh, well, I'm a man. I'm not a protected class. I don't have civil rights. That's very negative thinking, and it's not true. Your civil right, everyone has civil rights, first of all. I talk about protected characteristics. It doesn't matter if you are black, brown, white, something in between. You cannot be illegally discriminated against because of your race. Now, it happens to be that white people typically do not have that problem as often at work, but they're still protected just as much as everyone else is. Right.
Okay. So, Ryan, I want to leave us in Mental Health Monday land with you giving us your final, just whatever bottom line and best advice that you can give us just going forward based on the advocacy that you bring. What would you like to share?
Well, thank you very much. The thing I want to share with everyone is everyone is entitled to feel safe, welcome, and celebrated at work. If you're at a job and people make you feel isolated, they make you feel like a loser, you're not involved in things, you go home feeling sad, you deserve better than that. And don't let people tell you you don't. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what obvious or not so obvious disabilities you may have. You deserve to spend time in a place where you feel welcome. And you deserve to find it. So put the time in, put in the effort, ask for help, don't suffer in silence.
There you go. Well, that's a very powerful statement, and I'm not going to step on that or add to that because I think That is an amazing close, and I really, really seriously appreciate you coming and sharing with us here on Mental Health Monday. Every conversation, I remind our audience, is a conversation that is worth having and one worth hearing. You know, we're working together. Every voice joins together to create a choir that represents our well-being, our mental health, our mental wellness. So it's not about being mentally ill. Our goal here is to advocate that you can actually accept and to be mentally well. So we need that in our society, so you never feel like that you're alone. And Ryan, thank you for helping us get that message out there.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate
For
you.
sure. I feel like I need to get a different job so I can just utilize Ryan and his girlfriend. We got to utilize their skills. I don't even know what to do. Can I sue my husband as a housewife, a domestic
Give it a
engineer?
shot. 888, call Ryan. We'll see what we can do.
Dave, you should have been here to protect your own rights. You weren't here. We're coming for you, boo. We're coming for you. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us on Mental Health Monday. We want to remind you that next week, I'm not sure. We might have a special treat for you guys next week. But whatever the case is, I don't want to advertise what's going to happen next week just yet. But I want to encourage you all to tune in next week, Monday, 6:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9:00 Eastern Standard Time. Be here every Monday because we definitely will be here wanting and waiting to have the conversation. See you guys next week. Bye.